"We're charging you $200 a month for a family membership," my dad declared. "Everyone pitches in for your sister's children's activities. I was the only one without kids." "That seems fair," I replied, and paid for 6 months. Then I stopped going. A year later, when they saw the announcement of my son's birth and realized I had a baby they weren't aware of, the group chat erupted with over 150 calls and messages. "Hey Reddit," my father said as if joking. "We're charging you $200 a month," he stated, tapping his fork on his plate. The word membership lingered in the air, feeling odd and sharp. I glanced up for my food. "Membership." My mom nodded as if it made complete sense. "Everyone helps out. Your sister's kids are involved in activities now. Soccer, piano, tutoring. It's only fair." My sister didn't even look at me, busy cutting her youngest's chicken into small pieces, her tone soft and patient in a way I rarely heard directed at others. I was the only one at the table without kids, or at least that's what they thought. "That seems fair," I said softly. No one noticed how tightly my hands were clenched in my lap as I said it. The first payment went out that night, $200 automatically withdrawn. No reminder, no discussion. The second payment followed a month later, then the third. Each time, I told myself this was temporary, that this was what families did for one another. Being the unmarried daughter without kids meant my contributions were different: money instead of gifts, silence instead of needs. By the fourth month, the requests increased. "Can you cover half of the birthday cake?" Dance costumes ended up being pricier than expected. "Your sister's car needs fixing." "This is family, right?" I paid. Gradually, without anyone saying it aloud, I found myself excluded. Sunday lunches went by without invitations, and family outings appeared on social media instead: pictures of my parents smiling with my sister's children, captions filled with hearts, and words like "blessed" and "together again." I didn't comment. When I tried to engage in the group chat, responses came hours later, or not at all. When I stopped replying completely, no one asked why. By the 6th month, I realized something that hurt more than the money: they didn't miss me. They missed what I provided. So I quit attending. No dramatic farewell, no confrontation. I simply disappeared. What no one knew, what I guarded fiercely, was that while I was vanishing from their lives, something fragile and precious was developing in mine. I was pregnant. The first trimester was frightening: nausea, exhaustion, fear. I had lost a pregnancy before, quietly and painfully, without telling anyone until it was too late. This time, I promised myself I would protect this life. No announcements, no expectations, no opinions. Only my husband and my doctor knew, and that was enough. As my belly grew, so did the distance between me and my family. I watched holidays pass through screens: Thanksgiving without me, Christmas without me. I saw photos of gifts my sister's kids received, gifts I had helped fund. While I sat at home, hands resting on my stomach, I wondered what it felt like to be chosen without conditions. The payments continued for 6 months, then I stopped them: no message, no warning. I simply canceled the automatic withdrawals. No one noticed right away. By the time my son was born, nearly a year had passed since I had truly been a part of their lives. Labor was long and quiet, no family waiting room, no frantic texts, just my husband's hand in mine. When my son was placed on my chest, everything else faded away. His fingers instinctively curled around mine. I cried, not from pain, but from relief. We shared one photo: just his hand, just mine. No caption. I didn't even tag myself. The response was immediate. My phone vibrated so violently it slid across the table. Calls, messages, voicemails, over 100 notifications within minutes. My mother asked, "Why am I finding out about this online?" My sister said, "You had a baby." My father said, "This isn't funny. Call us now." I stared at the screen, my son asleep on my chest, and felt something settle within me: calm. They showed up at my door that evening, unannounced, upset, and entitled. My mother pushed past me before I could speak, scanning the apartment. "So, this is where you've been hiding," she remarked. My sister followed, arms crossed. "You could have told us." My father remained quiet at first, just looking around as if assessing the damage. "How long?" he finally asked. 9 months, I replied. My mother gasped. "You kept this from us." I met her gaze. "You didn't notice." That was when the accusations began that I was cruel, selfish, punishing them. "You cut us out," my sister snapped. I shook my head and stepped back. "That's the same thing," my mother said sharply. "No," I said quietly. "It isn't." My father gestured toward my son. "So what now? When do we tell the family?" "You don't," I replied. The room fell silent. "What do you mean we don't?" my mother demanded. "I mean," I said, my voice steady, "this isn't a group decision." My sister laughed bitterly. "You're really doing this?" "Yes," I said. "I am." That was when my mother said the thing that finally broke something open. "So what? You're going to make us beg?" she asked. "After everything we've done for you?" I looked at her. "Everything," I repeated. She hesitated. My father frowned. "We raised you." Then I said softly, "You charged me to belong." Silence. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I just spoke the truth, and that truth was heavier than any argument. They left angry, confused, certain I would come around. They didn't realize something had already shifted quietly and irrevocably. But what happened next would force each of them to confront what family truly meant. I expected the silence to hurt. I thought the absence of calls, the lack of messages, and the sudden quiet, after everything exploded, would feel like rejection all over again. But it didn't. It felt like relief. For the first time since childhood, my nervous system wasn't bracing for the next demand, the next expectation, or the next subtle reminder that my worth came from what I provided rather than who I was. I spent those first few days doing something unfamiliar, resting. My son slept against my chest most of the day, warm and heavy, his tiny fingers curling and uncurling as if testing the world one grip at a time. I watched his serene face as he slept and promised myself quietly, without drama, that he would never grow up thinking love had a price. On the fourth day, my father called. I didn't answer right away. I stared at the phone while it rang, my son breathing softly against me, and asked myself a simple question: do I want this conversation? Not because I owed it, not because it was expected, but because I was ready. When I finally answered, my father sounded tired. "We need to talk," he said. I nodded to myself. "We already are." They came over that weekend, but the atmosphere was different. No confidence, no entitlement. My mother stood just inside the doorway, hands clasped tightly. My sister avoided eye contact, scrolling through her phone as if it might save her from accountability. My father cleared his throat. "You blindsided us," he said. I didn't interrupt. "You made us look like bad parents," my mother added. I looked at her calmly. "You didn't need my help for that." The words landed heavily. "Final," my sister scoffed. "This is about money. Just admit it." I shook my head. "It's about value." She rolled her eyes. "We're family." I met her gaze fully this time. "Then why did you invoice me for belonging?" Silence. Not the defensive type, but the exposed kind. My father sighed. "You didn't have to stop paying." "Yes," I said quietly, "I did." My mother's voice trembled. "We thought you were okay with it." I nodded slowly. "You thought my silence meant consent." No one argued that. That was when my mother finally looked at my son. She stepped closer, tentative and uncertain. "He's beautiful," she whispered, reaching out instinctively. I stepped back, not aggressively, not angrily, just enough. Her hand froze midair. "You're keeping him from us," she said, her voice tight. "No," I replied evenly. "I'm protecting him." That was the moment something shifted, not because they understood, but because they realized I wouldn't bend. The visit ended without shouting, which somehow made it heavier. The following weeks were uncomfortable in a new way. My sister called less. My parents stopped making demands. The group chat fell silent, and gradually, the consequences surfaced. Dance lessons were cancelled. Birthday plans were downsized. Vacations quietly disappeared. The family dynamic had relied on something no one wanted to acknowledge: me. One afternoon, my sister called, her voice weary. "They cancelled my daughter's dance classes," she said. I waited. "The money you were sending mattered," she added. I took a breath. "It mattered to me too." There was a long pause. "I didn't realize you were disappearing," she said quietly. "I did," I replied. A week later, my grandfather called. He hadn't been part of the conflict, he rarely was. He observed, listened, and waited. "I want to meet my great-grandson," he said. I agreed. He held my son gently, reverently, as if he understood how fragile trust could be. "He's strong," he murmured. Then he looked at me with eyes that had witnessed decades of family patterns repeat. "You weren't paying for family," he said gently. "You were paying for permission." That sentence settled something deep within me. A month later, the family group chat lit up again. Another birthday, another request for contributions. This time, no one responded, not even my parents' friends. It turned out people had noticed more than I realized. They saw who always paid. They noticed who stopped showing up. They observed how things fell apart when the quiet supporter stepped away. My mother came alone one afternoon, no demands, no accusations, just tears. "I didn't think about how it felt," she said. "I thought you were strong enough to handle it." I nodded. "I was," I said, "but that doesn't mean I should have had to." She cried quietly, not for show, but for realization. Rebuilding didn't happen quickly. Boundaries don't dissolve just because someone feels bad. Access wasn't restored overnight. Trust wasn't freely handed back. But something changed. They stopped assuming and started asking. One night, months later, I sat on the floor watching my son discover his own feet. My phone buzzed with a message from my sister. I didn't know how much we were taking until it was gone. I stared at it for a long time, then replied, "I didn't either." Life didn't become perfect, but it became peaceful. No invoices, no memberships, no unspoken obligations, just choice and clarity.